there's every bit of... dude, I can't even tell you. I mean, there's got to be... There's thousands, tens of thousands.
Most important factor in what we do, we would all agree upon, it's scouting. But no matter how much scouting you do, it does not guarantee success.
I wish I had something to say. There's a lot of ducks in that hole. We watched them until dark, and it was an absolute show. Definitely one of the most memorable experiences I could ever have in the last 20 years of duck hunting.
Don't get me wrong, I was happy to go out there on this field and to get after them, but at the end of the day, I was soaking wet, grinning, and having a good time.
As duck hunters, we can't help but have high expectations for pretty much every hunt that we go on. You can do all your homework, you scout it, you see the birds in the field, you know where they're coming from, you know what they're doing, you go in there the next day and you shoot limits. That's part of duck hunting. The reverse side of that is you can do all that homework and you can go in there and never fire a shot. That's part of hunting wild animals. That's part of, the draw of what we do. It's the chance that you take, and no matter how much homework you do, it doesn't always pay off. And on the flip side, you can go into a spot that didn't have any ducks in it the night before, and you can walk out of there with limits. You just never know. And on this first hunt, it was our last day in North Dakota. We had driven thousands of miles over the course of 5 days. We really hadn't found anything worthwhile that last night. We saw a few ducks in a marsh that was right next to fresh cut corn, and what you saw in the first episode this year, fresh cut corn was the ticket in North Dakota when we were up there this year. There really weren't that many ducks. We went in there just because it was close to the house we were staying at, and we didn't see a ton of ducks, but what we saw worked, and worked very well, and we only shot into 3 volleys. But the guys shot really well, the ducks worked really well, and out of those 3 groups, we killed 16 mallards.
The featured product of the week is the line of dog training equipment from PRT Products. We received the Cache River blind, the deluxe shotgun stand, and the tie-down stakes from PRT Products. Being a member of an HRC hunt club, retriever club, and seeing some of the products and hunt tests, and going to other hunt tests and seeing their holding blinds and flimsy material, and seeing the price on them, for the bang for your buck, you just can't beat it. On the Cache River blind, thick steel, thick material, it's all waterproof, you can't beat it.
Gun stand's nice because it doesn't just hold your gun. You can pretty much hook anything you need on there. Whistle, extra call, remote transmitter for your collar. It works great for a lot of things, not just the gun. Hammer time tie-out stake is great. You can bury it all the way in the ground, although I don't think you need to. My dog's pretty strong, and I put it in hard ground about halfway, and he gets restless sometimes, and it holds him no problem. You can drive it in all the way if you feel you need to. It doesn't seem to be a problem at all pulling it out. It comes right out every time. Hammers in easy, comes out easy. You know, anybody can go out in their yard and throw a bumper to their dog, but if you make it more like a hunting setup or a hunt test scenario, it helps them out. Because it ain't just going to be your buddy out there throwing a bird out every time when you're shooting birds. You need it to be as realistic as you can get. And these products, they help us do that a lot.
During the second trip back down to C&L Outdoors, there was still a ton of mallards in the area. But that night we broke up. Blake and Ryan went scouting where the mass majority of mallards were at, while me and Ricky Keller, we split up and headed east and found a good concentration of birds, but it was a wheat field. And at this point in time, we had no other option. Hail Mary. We went and knocked on his door. It was our last-ditch effort. It was getting dark. Got permission. Cut him. Shot. Found out that this wheat field had been dished under corn, with a lot of corn still visible on the ground. So that explained a lot of birds that were in the area. We went about halfway out in that field, set up on the edge line since there was no cover, and just set a spread out into the field to drag the birds into us. But when the mallards showed up, there were a lot of birds that flew over us and started breaking off and giving us looks. And eventually we probably went pull down about 3, 4, 5, just small little groups, a pair here, a single there, while the rest would go land on that X. And I mean, just peeling off 1s and 2s and just slowly filling the limits. That's what it was. I mean, it's going to be frustrating. They're going to go to that X. But being underneath them, that's the next possibility you can have. Good boy. That's cool. Here, down. Two more. The hopes weren't high. It was just a last effort that we had, so we went out there, drug all the blinds and decoys out of there. There's no hide. Hunting on the edge, it's tough. Figured we'd probably pull out a few birds here and there, but I really wasn't expecting to sit down there and pull a limit out, which most of the time I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Don't get me wrong, I was happy to go out there on this field and get after them, but at the end of the day, I was soaking wet, grinning, and having a good time.
Blake and I followed ducks one afternoon from a refuge to this little bend in the river. There weren't very many of them, but as time went on, they started to come in more and more and more. And after about 45 minutes of watching them, it seemed like the sky had just opened up and rained ducks into the corner of this river. It was the only spot of the river that was not frozen, and you wouldn't have guessed that it could hold that many ducks. We watched them until dark, and it was an absolute show. Definitely one of the most memorable experiences I could ever have in the last 20 years of duck hunting. The guys went hunting the next morning. I came back to this spot to see if the ducks were still there, and they were going to continue to use this area. They came in just as planned, about an hour after sunlight, and used it for a little while, and then they had left. This place had a ton of potential. So we came back in the afternoon, Blake, Ricky, and I. We made sure that we could come in at a decent time, made sure that we knew these ducks like clockwork. We talked it over, talked to the landowner, found out we could get permission, we could get access to this corner of the river, and that we wanted to hunt it in the morning. So we crept in, looked over the riverbank, not a duck. And we just kind of looked at each other like, where did they all go? We had no other options, and that was where we planned to hunt. It had been promising to be one of the best hunts of the entire season. It wasn't looking like it was going to be that way. We decided to hunt anyway, and I think we shot 3 ducks that day. But after talking it over, we realized it was completely our fault. The 2 days that we had waited to hunt that spot, it had warmed up into the mid to high 40s and opened up a massive amount of water for ducks, and they had so many other places to go, and we didn't even take that into consideration. They had found other places, and you could see them in the distance going into other parts of the river, and that was our last day of the hunt, and it was completely our fault.
You know, I think any duck hunter goes into every hunt with certain expectations, and they can be high or they can be low, but one of the best parts about duck or goose hunting is you do not know what the end result is going to be. You can do all the homework in the world, but that does not guarantee success. And you can go out to a spot on a whim and walk away pleasantly surprised. That's the nature of the beast. That's the beauty of duck and goose hunting, and that's part of the reason why we all love it as much as we do.
Thought about that even before. I meant to talk about that. Oh well. Are you recording?
Yeah.
All right. Woo!
Is that you yelling? We're not at a concert.
Whoever the first one was, just let it fly.
Elliot's still down here.